what amount of time, energy, and focus are you putting towards sales versus operation? To my surprise, he says, I'm 85% operations and 15% sales. And I was like confused. I was saying, man, you kill it in sales and you hate operations and you're doing 85% operations?
How do you coach them to let go of the very thing that got them from 0 to 1 or 0 to 3 or 0 to 5, but will not get them from 5 to 10? Welcome to Outsource to Profits. I have a fantastic guest here, Dave. Dave, do you mind telling the audience who you are, what you do, and how you serve the world?
All right. Yes. It's good to be with you. My name's Dave Pennington, and I am the founder and owner of Penn Coaching and Consulting. It's a company I've had for about almost 10 years now. And what I do is I help small to mid-sized business owners do primarily three things. Number one is reduce their personal workload from about 30 to 50%. And I can do that fairly quickly. And then to build a dream team around them that allows them to scale, become more profitable. And then also I have a component where I can help you understand the value of your company. And if you have a desire to sell it down the road, you can improve the metrics of it and sell it for a higher value.
This is fantastic. Building a team around you. Now, I want you to picture, everybody, that there's this inflection point. I've owned 3 agencies. I've made a million mistakes. And here's what happens. My super skill is that I'm a closer. So I'm a rainmaker. And from a product innovation standpoint, I'd say that I see around a corner. Those are like the 2 gifts. But everything else in the business is either a learned skill or a terrible skill that I have. And where I've made mistakes is I thought, because I'd heard a million of these podcasts that would say either lean into your strengths, hire around you, or if you don't have the technical capabilities to do that thing, how do you spot what good looks like? So I'll give you an example in finance. Like, I am not a financial wizard. And so how do I inspect, am I in the right gross margins? Do I have the right cost of customer acquisition? Am I traveling at a burn rate that is normalized? And all these sort of things. Well, if you don't understand it, how do you spot check what good looks like? So, Dave, that infers the very first question that I have for you. When we were talking offline, you have a point of view, of course, and I understand it now, that these are your strengths. You've got that, that one gift from God kind of thing, and you build the dream team around you. But for everybody else listening here, what do you say to those that say, yeah, but like, I don't understand the technical side, DevOps or engineering, yet I own a software company, or I can't read a P&L statement, yet we do millions of dollars in revenue and I can't sit in front of a board. What would you say to people around leaning into their strengths versus building competency around the things they don't understand?
Okay, I always start with the owner, and usually I say, look, all of us are good at something. Maybe we're good at 1 or 2 or maybe 3 things if you're really, really good, but none of us are good at everything. And what happens is, as an owner, particularly if you found the company, you wear a hat, then it might be marketing and sales and deliverable. You have all these different hats. And a lot of times you don't realize it, but over the years, you've just added hat after hat after hat after hat. And about sometimes as much as 80% of those are not in your areas of competency.
You can playing hero ball across the organization. Yeah.
And I find with most small to mid-sized business owners, they're what I call player coaches. So they're the starting shortstop on the baseball team, and they are coaching the team simultaneously, which is doable. You can do that, but it's hard because as a shortstop, I'm thinking about, okay, I got a guy on first. There's so many outs. I'm thinking about where I'm going with the ball if it comes to me. There's a lot of things that are running through my mind as a shortstop. As a coach, whole different picture. I might be thinking about the upcoming batting order, or I might be thinking about the right fielder who needs to pull over because this guy always hits it in a certain direction. So there's all kind of things I'm thinking about as a coach. And as an owner, you're kind of going from player to coach, player to coach, player to coach. So I always start, and I have some assessments that I use and try to help the owner understand what is your super strength? What's your zone of genius? For some people, it might be sales. For example, I had a small computer service guy, friend of mine who owned a company, and I chatted with him a little bit. I said, you kind of have business development and you have operations. Which one are you? He says, well, I'm sales. He says, look, I'm not trying to brag, but if I get before other people, I close like 80% of everybody I talk to. And I said, wow, 80% close ratio. That's impressive. I said, what about the operational side? He said, nah, not my thing. So I said, all right, be honest with me right now. What amount of time, energy, and focus are you putting towards sales versus operation? To my surprise, he says, I'm 85% operations and 15% sales. And I was like confused. I said, man, you kill it in sales and you hate operations and you're doing 85% operations. And so I just paused and I said, well, how's that working for you? Literally his head drops. He says, it's not. He says, I got to do something. He says, I need to either sell my company or I just can't keep doing this. It's wearing me out. So I said, well, what would happen?
Of their own creation. Yeah.
Yeah. What would happen if I could help you find a guy who could do the operations and got you back into sales? He says, if I did that, I'd double my company in about 18 months. Long story made short, he found an operations guy who could handle almost everything, at least 80% of it. He got back into sales. He got into some government contracts, and his company just took off. And that seems like an easy adjustment, but when you're in the middle of all that, it's hard to see it, and particularly for yourself. And then usually most of us have been burned in the past, or we've hired someone that didn't work out. I mean, there's all kinds of reasons why we don't make those shifts. But if you can understand what you're really good at, and then position yourself in that role primarily. And then I move on next to hiring what I call a complementary dream team. And I usually say it this way, believe it or not, there are people who actually love doing what you hate doing, and they're really good at it. You need to find those people and get them on your team. And it's different for different people. If you're good in sales, you probably need an operational person. If you're good in operations, you probably need a salesperson or a marketing person. So it's very customized to the owner and his abilities. And then we build a team, usually 3 to 5 direct reports. I always say start with 3 or less. You might have to go 1 and then add those.
Yeah,
and
like
then,
the pizza theory that Steve Jobs used to have. Yeah.
Yep. Exactly. But then what happens is rather than you trying to carry the load of the company on your back, which is where most owners are, you actually distribute that load to let's say three key individuals who carry a substantial amount of the load. And what happens is it frees you up, and then you have the capacity to look for other opportunities and other ideas of way to advance your company, make it more profitable, go into new markets, that kind of thing.
What do you say? Okay, let's play the inverse. So those that are listening primarily are all founders and CEOs, and they've heard that adage, listen, you had a choice, lean into your strengths or build competency around the things you don't understand. So you have at least some business acumen there. We're now leaning into our strengths and we're hiring the dream team around us. But now there's this other type of founder, and I caught myself here. In this third agency, I'm finally wise enough right away building a sales-led sales organization from day one, knowing that I've become prisoner in my own business because of my strengths. My strength is sales. So what do? I hold on to the very strength that I have too long because I keep thinking nobody else could do it like I can, the hero mentality. So what do you say to that founder? Maybe they're an engineer and they want to hold on to engineering, or they're a marketer and they want to hold on to marketing. How do you coach them to let go of the very thing that got them from 0 to 1 or 0 to 3 or 0 to 5, but will not get them from 5 to 10?
Well, that's a great situation, really, when you think about it. If you're at a point where you've kind of reached a level where you've built your business up enough where now you actually need to replace yourself in what you're strong in, that's a great place to be. Now, it's not easy to let go because you have a lot of competency in that area, and we tend to think nobody can quite do it like I would do it. And my response to that is that may be true, but they don't have to do it at the level you do it. And what happens is, you're not only doing that, but you're probably doing some other things too. And so you're diluting your potential to lead that business and to really grow that business because you're being pulled in this way and you're giving a lot of time to something that someone else might say the other person's 80% of what you are. 80% of what you are probably will be adequate It may be more than adequate to continue to grow and develop. And then because you know that area, and if you get the right person, has to be the right chemistry and a lot of other things, but then you can lean in and help that person who's an 80%er in sales, say, actually become a 90% or a 95%. You can help that person grow and improve. In fact, one of the things that I teach is this. When you begin to grow your company like this and you position yourself in your strengths and you hire that dream team, what happens is your role as the owner goes from doing so much to now actually developing the people that you brought on your team. And the reason why I say that's important is because we tend to think, okay, I got this person, I'm done, I'm good. No, actually your work is just beginning, because people will develop themselves to a certain extent, but they're never really going to be stretch themselves and grow like you want them to grow unless you're pressing them a little bit. Now, sometimes you can develop them because you have expertise. Sometimes you need to go outside of your organization and bring someone in to help develop them. Sometimes you can get them training. There's all kinds of different things you can do. But the idea is you want to really lean in and help them function at maximum capacity. You want to optimize them to the point where they're really just, every time they get up to the plate, they're hitting the ball out of the park. And what happens when that does is your company just really begins to take off, because you've got a great team. They're complementary to each other, kind of the pizza thing you talked about. But now they're functioning at optimum capacity. And as the owner, it's kind of fun to watch that happen when it happens, because it's almost like you can't believe how well it's come together.
Last question, something tactical for the founder. When do you, and of course, every situation is different, but are there certain benchmarks or criteria or red light, green light where you, the founder, should know or get a spidey sense? It is time for you to either start leaning into your strengths and wrapping a dream team around you, and or relinquishing yourself of tasks or of programs, because 80% done by others is 100% better than done by yourself. What have you coached people, whether objectively or subjectively, to look for?
I think it actually comes down to the point where you're at what I call capacity. You're like this. The water level's like this in your life.
You're truly bobbing in the water.
Yeah. And what happens is, if you don't change the structure of your company, your organization, you're capped out. You can't grow anymore, because more growth requires more of you, and there's no more of you to give. You're already almost drowning. And so that tells you that, hey, I need to look. And what I say is, keep the things you love, offload the things that drain you, that exhaust you. Now, you may be able to do them, and you may be able to do them fairly well because you've just developed and adapted and you've become decent at it, but you don't love it, and you'll never be great at it because it's just not your thing. Those are the ones you want to offload first. You want to keep the things that you love and that you're really good at, and that frankly doesn't even feel like work for you. It's just easy because you're gifted in that area.
Yeah. How do people get a hold of you if they want to know more?
Probably the easiest way is just email me, Dave, D-A-V-E, at Penn Coaching, Penn coaching.com. You can look on LinkedIn. I have a website, penncoaching.com. Lots of different ways to connect with me. I like meeting with people. Typically what I do when I meet with them is I just learn about them. I try to keep my client list to a very short kind of, really, I'll say procured kind of level, where I don't work with everybody, but I really enjoy leaning in, helping leaders grow, helping them develop their companies, helping them become more profitable. And then I also have an ability for you to take a look at the value of your company if you ever want to sell it, and how to improve the value. So when you do sell it, you'll walk away with more dollars from that close.
Fantastic. Great having you on the show.
Thanks so much. Great to be with you.
Thank you.